Picture this. Your strawberry plant is absolutely lush. We're talking wide, dark leaves, stems pushing out in every direction, a plant that honestly looks like it belongs on the cover of a gardening magazine. And yet, when you walk over expecting to pick fruit, there's nothing there. Maybe a flower showed up once. Maybe two. But they vanished, and what was supposed to be a berry never came. So you water more. You feed it. You wait. Still nothing. Here's what nobody is telling you: your plant is not broken. It's not diseased. It's not random bad luck. It is being steered in the wrong direction by a set of very specific signals, and until you identify which ones are running in the background of your garden, nothing you do on the surface is going to change the outcome. Welcome to the channel. Today we're going through all 8 of them. 8 hidden reasons your strawberries are sitting there looking healthy while completely refusing to give you fruit, and exactly what to do about each one. Stay with me, because by the end of this you'll be able to walk out to your garden and actually diagnose what's happening instead of guessing. Let's go. Reason 1, you're expecting too much, too soon. Let's start with something that feels almost too simple, but it's the reason a lot of first-year growers never get the harvest they're expecting. Your plant may just not be ready yet. When a strawberry plant is in its first season, fruit isn't even close to the top of its priority list. What it's actually doing underground is building. It's driving roots deeper into the soil, establishing a foundation, pulling in resources, and setting itself up for the seasons ahead. Above ground it might look fully developed, even impressive, but that's the surface story. The real work is happening where you can't see it. Now here's where people make it worse without realizing it. Early flowers appear, and it feels exciting, so you leave them on. You think you're almost there. But what those flowers are actually doing is draining energy that the plant desperately needs for root development. You're pulling it in 2 directions at once, and both suffer. The move that feels completely wrong but makes a massive difference? Remove those flowers in year 1. Take them off. Let the plant finish building itself. When year 2 arrives, you won't be coaxing a weak plant into producing a handful of berries. You'll have a fully loaded system that's ready to go, and the difference in output is not subtle. So if you're in the first season right now, ask yourself honestly, are you rushing the plant into something it isn't prepared for, or are you building the foundation for a harvest that actually delivers? Reason 2, you're feeding it into silence. This one is counterintuitive because it starts with you doing everything right. You're watering consistently, you're paying attention, and you're feeding your plants to give them the best possible shot. And it works. Growth kicks in, the leaves get full and thick, the color deepens, and for a moment everything looks exactly the way you'd hope. The problem is happening underneath that picture-perfect growth. When a plant receives heavy doses of nitrogen, it shifts into vegetative overdrive. It's being told, at a chemical level, that its job is to grow foliage. So it does. It just doesn't stop, because the signal never changes. Meanwhile, flowering, the actual step that leads to fruit, gets quietly deprioritized because the plant is too busy doing the job you accidentally assigned it. To break this cycle, you have to change the message you're sending. That means stepping back from nitrogen-heavy feeding and moving toward inputs that support flowering and fruit development instead. Phosphorus and potassium are what you're looking for here. They communicate a different set of instructions to the plant, ones that encourage it to shift out of pure growth mode and start investing in reproduction. Going even slower with organic amendments or compost gives you the same result with less risk of swinging too hard in the other direction. The plant adjusts more naturally, flowers start holding longer, and you stop getting all leaves and no payoff. Look at what your fertilizer routine actually looks like right now. Is it quietly working against everything you're trying to accomplish? Reason 3, the energy leak you're probably ignoring. Walk out to your strawberry bed and look for long, thin stems reaching out across the soil in every direction. If you see those, your plant isn't spreading because things are going well. It's doing the exact opposite of what you need it to do. Those are runners, and each one is a direct withdrawal from the same energy account that funds your fruit. The plant isn't making a mistake by sending them out. Spreading and multiplying is a completely natural survival strategy. But every runner that takes root is a new plant the original has to support, which means less energy available for flowering, less available for fruit development, and a bed that slowly fills up with small, underpowered plants that collectively produce less than one well-managed one would on its own. The discipline required here is simple but consistent. You have to cut runners early, and you have to keep doing it. Every time you remove one before it establishes, you're returning that energy to the main plant and redirecting it toward the things that actually produce your harvest. If you want to expand your patch and grow new plants, be intentional about it. Choose one runner, let it root properly, separate it once it's self-sufficient, and remove everything else. The moment you start applying this consistently, you'll see the shift. The plant stops spreading and starts producing, and the flowers that follow are stronger and more likely to develop all the way into fruit. Are your plants currently running wild, or are they being directed somewhere useful? Reason 4: too close for anyone's good. Even if you've got the runner situation handled, there's a separate problem that develops quietly over time and mimics a lot of other issues. Physical crowding. Strawberries need more than nutrients and water to thrive. They need light reaching every part of the plant, air moving through the bed, and soil that isn't being drained from 3 directions at once. When plants grow too close together, none of those things happen properly. Moisture hangs around at soil level longer than it should. Light gets blocked before it reaches the leaves that need it. Root systems compete for the same patches of soil, and everyone loses a little. What makes this harder to catch is that the plants don't dramatically show signs of stress at first. They keep growing. The bed looks alive and full. But production quietly drops, flowers become inconsistent, and fruit becomes the exception rather than the rule. By the time most gardeners realize spacing is the issue, it's already been limiting the harvest for an entire season. Fixing it means being willing to thin things out, which feels destructive but isn't. Remove the weakest plants. Keep only the ones with room to fully expand their root systems and canopy without interference. A bed with fewer, well-spaced plants will outperform a densely packed one every single time, because each individual plant is operating at full capacity rather than constantly compromised. How does your bed actually look right now? Are your plants giving each other room to perform, or are they quietly competing for everything? Reason 5: the crown is in the wrong spot. This one is easy to overlook because it comes down to a single point of contact between plant and soil, but that contact point controls more than most people realize. The crown of a strawberry plant, that central hub where all the leaves emerge from, is the most sensitive part of the whole structure. Its position relative to the soil surface is not flexible. Bury it too deep and it sits in constant moisture with nowhere to breathe, which creates exactly the conditions that lead to rot. Lift it too high and the root zone dries out faster than it should, stressing the plant every time the temperature climbs. In either case, the plant doesn't announce the problem loudly. It just starts underperforming. Flowering becomes irregular. Fruit production drops off in ways that look like other issues, which is part of why this one gets missed for so long. Getting it right means positioning the crown precisely at soil level during planting, and checking it again after rain, irrigation, or natural settling shifts the soil around. It's a 2-second check that most gardeners skip, and for a plant as position-sensitive as a strawberry, that check can make the difference between consistent production and a season of frustration. If your plants are healthy-looking but unproductive, have you actually verified where the crown is sitting, or have you just assumed it's fine? Reason 6: the flowers are showing up but nothing's closing the deal. Few things are more frustrating than a plant full of flowers that disappear without turning into anything. The growth is there. The blooms are there. And then they just fade, one after another, with nothing to show for it. What's failing is the handoff. Strawberries depend on pollen moving between flowers for fruit to develop. When that transfer doesn't happen at the right time, the whole process stops at the flower stage. It doesn't matter how healthy the plant is or how perfectly everything else has been managed. Without that exchange, the fruit simply never forms. This becomes a real problem in gardens where insect activity is low, where plants are grown in partially enclosed or sheltered spaces, or where environmental conditions during the bloom window aren't ideal for pollinators. A stretch of cool, wet weather at the wrong time can be enough to interrupt the whole cycle. The good news is that you don't have to wait for nature to solve this for you. Creating an environment that attracts pollinators helps significantly over the long term, but in the short term, you can bridge the gap yourself. A soft brush or even a fingertip moved gently across open flowers transfers pollen just as well as any bee, and it takes very little time. If your plant is blooming but nothing is forming afterward, don't keep looking at nutrients or watering schedules. Look at whether pollination is actually completing. Reason 7. The plant has simply had its run. This one is harder to accept than the others, but it matters. Some of the strawberry plants in your garden may have already given you everything they're capable of giving. Strawberries are not indefinite producers. They have a peak window, roughly the first few seasons, where fruiting is strong, consistent, and reliable. After that, the plant's energy slowly shifts. The base becomes more woody and rigid. Flower cycles become less frequent and less productive. Even under ideal conditions, output drops, and no amount of feeding, watering, or attention reverses that trajectory. The biology has moved on. Where growers get stuck is trying to correct what is actually just natural aging. They add more inputs, change their routine, troubleshoot endlessly, and come to the conclusion that they're doing something wrong. But the plant isn't telling you that something went wrong. It's telling you that its productive life is winding down. The real solution at that point is replacement, not management. New plants start back at that high-output early phase where growth energy and fruit production are both running strong at the same time. That's something an older plant cannot replicate, regardless of how well it's cared for. This is why experienced growers replace their strawberry beds on a schedule rather than holding on until production has already collapsed. Getting ahead of the decline means you never really lose a season. Look honestly at how long your current plants have been in the ground. Is the drop in production a problem you can solve, or is it the plant telling you it's time for something new? Reason 8. The environment is quietly hitting a switch. The last one is the sneakiest because the plant gives you almost nothing to see. Leaves stay green. Growth continues. There are no obvious distress signals. But internally, the plant has shifted out of production mode, and it's doing it in response to environmental conditions that most gardeners never think to check. Strawberries are more sensitive to temperature and light than most people give them credit for. When heat extends beyond their preferred range, the plant treats it as a stress signal, and the first thing it pulls back is reproductive activity. Flowering slows down or pauses entirely. Any fruit that started forming gets abandoned. The plant isn't dying, it's triaging. It's prioritizing its own survival over producing something for you. Light follows the same logic from a different angle. Consistent access to morning sun supports the flowering trigger. Too much intense afternoon heat with direct sun, without enough buffering, pushes the plant toward stress even when water is available. Too little overall light reduces the plant's ability to initiate flowering in the first place. Both extremes shut things down, just through different pathways. Managing this means giving the plant consistent access to the right kind of light, protecting it during temperature extremes, and understanding that in the middle of a heat wave, a drop in production isn't a failure on your part. It's the plant responding to its environment exactly the way it's designed to. If your strawberries are otherwise healthy but frustratingly inconsistent, take a step back and look at what the environment has been doing while you were focused on everything else. Putting it together. When strawberry production stalls, it almost never comes down to a single dramatic mistake. It's usually a combination of smaller things that have been building without announcing themselves. An old plant that's past its peak. A bed that got crowded over 2 seasons. Feeding habits that accidentally prioritized leaves over fruit. Environmental stress during a key window. Any one of them can blunt your harvest. More than one running at the same time can shut it down completely. But here's the shift that changes everything. Once you know what to look for, none of this is guesswork anymore. You can walk into your garden, look at what the plant is actually doing, and trace it back to the real cause. So don't try to fix everything at once. Go back through those 8 reasons, identify the one that looks most familiar in your specific setup, and start there. Make one change, give the plant time to respond, and most of the time you'll see a shift faster than you expect. If this opened up something you hadn't considered before, drop it in the comments. Which one of these 8 was the issue you didn't know you had? I want to hear what's actually going on in your garden right now, because I guarantee someone else reading your comment is dealing with the exact same thing. Share this with one person who's been staring at a strawberry plant that refuses to cooperate, and hit subscribe if you want more of this. We break down what's really happening in your garden every single week, no fluff, just the stuff that actually works.